You be where you're comfortable. I'll be where I'm comfortable, which is right here.
What?
Well, thank you guys for coming to watch Social Media Stole My Kidney. Just show of hands, who thinks Twitter is kind of stupid? Okay, that's fine. I will definitely teach you not to hate Twitter so much. My name is Amy Donahue, and I am a kidney donor. And I'm 42 years old, and I never thought that 30 years ago that this is where I would be today. I was a young punk from Buffalo, New York, and got into a lot of trouble. Well, not too much trouble, but I was a handful as a teenager, and just didn't fit into any mold. I've always been a little bit different, but I've always been kind of a rebel, as you can see. And I grew up in a really small town of 3,500 people. As soon as I graduated high school, I was out of there. I never went back, and traveled around the country and ended up here just about 11 years ago. And when I moved here, I started doing stand-up comedy, so I'm really, really funny. And that's when I started getting into social media. I started with MySpace, which I'm still on because I love it. I love MySpace. For an entertainer, it's the perfect social media outlet. And then with comedy, I became a radio DJ, and that's when I started getting into Twitter. And Twitter for me is about building relationships. It's about following cool people or cool accounts to get information on things that you normally wouldn't get in your newspaper. Like Arizona Republic is not going to tell you about this kind of stuff. The coolest people I've ever known in the world I've met on Twitter. And most of them are speaking here, so you know that Twitter is where all the cool kids are. Oh, that's the Twitter logo. About 3 years ago, I liked a page on Facebook. And it was about a Twitter follower's mother going through kidney disease. Her name is Kirti. Kirti's mom was suffering from kidney disease for 10 years. She had severe migraines and was hospitalized for them and was given high doses of ibuprofen. The ibuprofen killed her kidneys. So for 10 years, she was very sick, and every year that went on, her kidney function went lower and lower and lower. And she avoided dialysis with a very controlled diet. So I want you guys to think for 1 second. What is your favorite food? Think about that for a second. Now think about not eating that food for 10 years because your body can't process it, and if you eat it, you will get extremely sick. Now most of us are like, well, I would do it once in a while. I could cheat once in a while. It's food allergies. People who are gluten-free will once in a while eat pasta, and they'll feel like crap afterwards, but oh, it was so worth it. This woman could not eat pizza for 10 years. That was her favorite food. So that means no potatoes. Anything with a lot of potassium, and I think it's phosphates. I'm not a doctor.
You're right, it's phosphates.
Is it phosphates? Okay. So no potassium, no bananas, no potatoes, no tomatoes. Things like that for 10 years. They're also Hindu. She's Hindu. She's Indian. They were already vegetarians, but she loves cheese and milk. She couldn't drink milk for 10 years, except for like a little splash in her chai every day. I never knew anything about kidneys until I saw the Facebook page, and in January, just about 3 years ago, she sent out this tweet that I saw a conversation with her about her mom finally agreeing to be put on the donor list. It would take 2 to 6 years for her to get a cadaver donor, and she was not going to live that long. So I do get very emotional. I've been telling this story hundreds of times for 3 years now. I saw the conversation, and I jumped in and I said, I'll do it. I'll donate my kidney. What do I have to do? Not just because I didn't want to hear about it anymore, because she talked about it all the time, but as we know, when you talk about things, it makes you feel better, and you get support from the community, and in this case, it was the Twitter community. So when people say Twitter is kind of stupid, I say, wait a second, I kind of saved a life because of a tweet, so let's talk about Twitter for a second. And that was in January, and I didn't know anything about it. I was about to get in the tub when I saw her tweet. And so she sends me a DM on Twitter. Hey, are you serious? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm from New York. If I say something, I'm going to do it. I don't lie, and I always follow through. That's why I get into trouble a lot, like losing a kidney. So she called me later that night. I'm like, hey, I'm about to take a bath. Call me in an hour, because the bath is very important at night. I get out of the tub. I go to Google real quick, and I'm like, how to donate a kidney. What do you search for when you tell someone that you're going to donate a kidney? Like, I wonder, you know, for all the really geeky SEO search people, I wonder what that would be like, the term. And I looked, and I saw 2 articles real quickly, people that donated. Boom, it was easy. I'm like, okay. So she called me later that night, and we figured out a way to finally get me going to test. And the first thing is a blood test. I had no idea what my blood type was. At the time, I was just about 40, and it had been how many years since I was in high school biology class. So I had no idea. I know we do that pinprick, and I had no idea. It turns out I was B positive, which is funny because I'm always so positive. And I started the testing process. I hadn't met her yet. I had not met the mom, who we call Tiny Mom. She's this little Indian lady. And when I say little, she's shorter than me, and I'm 5 foot and 3/4 of an inch tall. I wear heels just to, like, for people to notice me more than they probably already do. But Tiny Mom, I hadn't met yet. I started the testing, and I remember on Valentine's Day, I was in the Mayo Clinic for 10 hours. This is so funny. I get there at like 6 or 7 in the morning. I was single at the time, so I already hated Valentine's Day. And I get to the Mayo Clinic in North Scottsdale. And the first thing they do is they have to see if you're pregnant. So, pee in a cup. If anybody's uncomfortable with the words pee or blood, you should probably walk out, because I'm going to talk a lot about pee and blood. So I had to pee into a cup so they could give me a pregnancy test. And you need to remember that for a second, because then I went through a slew of tests. I even passed a psych test. How that happened, I have no idea. I had 2 mammograms, because the first one they found a lump in, which ended up being okay because it was just a skin fold. But side note, the recipient's insurance paid for everything. I've never paid a dime, not even for a pill. So they pay for everything. So I go through all day long. The last test of the day was a CT scan. Has anybody had a CT scan? You have? You have? Okay. I'll explain. A CT scan basically is they shoot your body full of iodine, and then they take pictures of whatever they need to take pictures of. In my case, it was the kidneys. And they put you on a table, and they say, when the iodine hits your body, you're going to feel like you peed the bed. Now, I so wanted to pee the bed just because I have like a valid excuse, like, oh, I thought I really did. Oh, I'm sorry. But that didn't happen. Right before that test, though, I had to pee in another cup. I'd been there for 10 hours. That day, I had been there for 10 hours. I was exhausted. I had so many meetings, so many pokes and prods in my body. And I'm like, okay, so what is this for? I'm extremely curious. This is my body. I ask questions of everything that they did. They're like, we have to see if you're pregnant. And I said, I took a pregnancy test at 7 o'clock this morning. What do you think I've been doing all day? There are no hot doctors here, and I'm pretty sure that we're safe. And they're like, oh, we still have to do it. So I'm exhausted, emotionally and physically. I'm in the bed. They shoot me full of iodine. I start bawling. I had nobody there with me that day, and I just started crying, and all I kept thinking was, Tiny Mom hasn't had pizza in 10 years. Tiny Mom hasn't had pizza in 10 years. And it's the only thing that got me through it, because I was spent. I remember getting home that night and just like sitting on my couch in my living room and just bawling. Not because I was sad, not because I was frustrated. I was just done, because as I'm at the Mayo Clinic, I've got hundreds of people tweeting me, how's it going? Are your tests going okay? What are you doing now? And I needed to be transparent for the same reason that I'm doing this right now, is because I needed people to see the entire process, because I knew that with my, I don't know, at the time I had maybe 2,000 followers. I needed people to see that it wasn't that bad so that they would do the same thing. And it was just then that I met Tiny Mom. I hadn't met her yet when I started the testing, but I just thought, okay, let's get this out of the way. Fox 10 came over. I'm kind of a big deal. We had all the TV stations because it's social media, saving a life. We think that social media is just about showing people what you had for breakfast. Or, ooh, me and my boyfriend, blah, 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 at Disney. No. Social media is so much more. So I finally met this woman. And as soon as I walked in the door, I didn't think that they would like me. I have tattoos. I am outspoken. I'm a New Yorker. I make no bones about how I feel about things. And I walked in the door and they looked at me. I cracked a joke. They're like, well, is your blood white too? And I'm like, yes, I'm in. Because they're brown. And it was just like the funniest thing to be able to relate with people that I didn't know, but all of a sudden I had this instant connection with. And I'm not a religious person, but I know that there are forces on this planet that put people in our lives for a reason. And I know that I was on Twitter that night before hopping into the tub so that I could do this. And this is me, Kirti. I was blonde at the time. I change my hair all the time, so you'll see that in the pictures. But all of a sudden I had a sister that I didn't know I would have. I had parents. I call them my brown parents because they're from India. And they're Hindu, and they're just so calming and everything. So we finally get all the testing done, and I get fired from my job. I got fired because of all the testing at the Mayo Clinic. I didn't hit my sales goal. And I remember being walked out. This was 3 weeks before the surgery. 3 weeks before I'm supposed to save a life and donate in Oregon. I lose my job. Like, what kind of people would do that? I'll tell you offline who did it if you would like to know.
Who was
so
it?
I'll tell you offline because I'm being filmed
First of all,
right now.
No, we're not recording.
It's out there, believe me. I sent Kirti a DM, like right as I'm being walked out. I'm being walked out of a building as if I'm some kind of a criminal. And I sent her a DM, I'm like, dude, I just got fired from my job. It took me 5 minutes to walk to the parking garage. By the time I got there, my phone had blown up with tweets because she had let people know I had gotten fired. I never said anything really publicly. All I said was, just the distraction of testing to donate my kidney made me lose my job. And that was all I said. But I had people texting me, I had people Facebooking me, I had people tweeting me, emailing me. We have a job open if you want it. I had 12 job offers by the time I drove home, and that was a 10-minute drive. I drove from downtown Phoenix to central Phoenix, and in that time I had 12 job offers. And I just said, you know what? I don't want to just take a job that, for the sake of having a job. In 3 weeks, 3 weeks from today, I'm going under the knife. Maybe right now is not the time for me to be working. And single girl, no roommates, with her own bills to pay. I panicked, but then I just realized things will work out the way they should. And the next day I got an email from a Twitter follower who said, you rock. We're really mad at what happened. We need a social media person. I'm like, great, I can start tomorrow. Well, don't you want to wait till you recover? Nope, I want to start tomorrow. Because I needed a distraction. I needed something to get me away. Because I'm still getting bombarded. And then I had to go on the news and talk about being fired. It's like, come on, guys. Can I just chill for a minute, and have some popcorn and watch a movie? No. The universe does not have that in its plan for Amy Donahue. Amy Donahue can't chill and watch a movie and eat popcorn, I guess. So I started within a couple days, had an interview, started my job, started working from home, and then went in for surgery. Now, when they do the CT scan, it's to take pictures to see which kidney is going to fit in the recipient's body. You have to have the same number of veins and arteries as the recipient. It's just like plugging something into a wall. There's got to be an outlet there. That's one of the ways they figure out which kidney is going to go as how it will fit into the recipient. So the Today Show was there. I told you I was a big deal. This was the second time they came out to film us. And they were in my face. My doctor walks in, and those of you who are a little bit older, you might remember in the 80s and 90s, they were replacing the wrong side body part. So you would have the wrong knee replaced, the wrong hip replaced. And it was this huge thing. And, I just couldn't think of how that could happen. The doctor walks in, and by now I'm a little doped up. Tiny Mom's next to me, she's doped up. And the two of us together is like the biggest snark fest in the world, and it's hilarious. And we're just cracking jokes. Our families are there. Today's show's right in my face. And the doctor walks in and says, "Do you know why you're here today?" And I'm like, "Do you know why I'm here today?" Kind of preparing for this for 3 months now. 4 months. They have to write on your body what they're going to take out, which is crazy to me. But so they took a marker. This is Tiny Mom. Look at her face and keep that in your mind. So there we are, Today's Show in the Mayo Clinic lobby. Woo, I'm such a big deal. So they have to ask you why you're there, and I said yes. So they have to write on the side of the body part that they're going to remove, yes, so that they know that they're taking out the right one. And I'm just thinking, this is a Mayo Clinic. This is a good place, right? They know what they're doing. And so they wheel me in, and I remember just looking at the Today Show camera, and I said, "Turn the effing camera off." I was done. I was done with the publicity. I was done with the cameras. I was done. So my surgery was 90 minutes long. The recipient is about 3 hours if there's no complications. But here's what they do is they punch holes in your stomach. It's a laparoscopic surgery. And that is so that you have smaller scars and less scars than just cutting you open. Back in the day, if they took your kidney out, which is here, they would slice across your rib cage and take it out, which kind of makes sense because they're in your back. But now, they do it laparoscopically. So I have 3 punches in my stomach. One is for gas. They fill you up so that they can get to it. One is for the cutter. And one is for the camera so that they can see what they're doing. And they took it out down where you would have a C-section. It's about this long. You can see it, but you have to buy me dinner first. Or an appetizer. But they take it out there and they cut me open, and my surgeon says, "Oh my God, Amy has an extra renal vein that didn't show up on her CT scan." So they ran across the hall. This is where it gets really emotional for me. And did you see me speak 2 years ago here? You're so familiar. The girl that was in front saw the speech. And oh my God, so we have to go across the hall. We have to talk to Tiny Mom's surgeons. And they had just cut her open to prep her. And they said, "We might have a problem. Amy has an extra renal vein that didn't show up on her CT scan." I'm like, "You're not going to believe this. She has the same vein that didn't show up on her scan." And that goes back to things in this world are happening because they're supposed to happen. Like I said, I've told this story thousands of times. Every time I cry at that spot. So I wake up, I'm puffed up out to here, and I'm sore. My phone is still blowing up. I get to my room finally. I'm trying to answer all the tweets, and I had Kirti send my first tweet out, which was, "Oh my God, I didn't wake up in a tub of ice," which I thought was really funny.
That's very funny.
We kind of coordinated her doing some of my tweets as I was coming out of anesthesia because I don't drink. I'm super healthy, so everything that they give me hits me extra hard. And I woke up, and within an hour, I was in my own room, and I had visitors, and I felt really good. And that's when I'm like, "Give me my phone. I got to start tweeting. I got to start Facebooking." My Facebook wall was covered with, "Hope everything's okay, let us know how you are." And it was very overwhelming, but it was also necessary because I needed people to see that I just got out of surgery and I'm tweeting. Like, how easy is this? I'm still doped up and I don't like that feeling, but I'm okay. I'm okay. I was out of the hospital in 48 hours. I was 5 days after donating, I was at Fez in Central Phoenix having Easter brunch with my family. And another Twitter person I knew was there. She's like, "What are you doing out of bed?" I'm like, "Having brunch? Don't you get hungry?" It didn't click to me. And people would come and visit, and I'd walk down my stairs into my parking lot and greet them and bring them up. And I'm like, "What are you doing out of bed?" Well, people thought that I was at home with a hospital bed in my living room with IVs and everything hooked up to me. That's what I would have assumed. So that's why I was so public and so out there on what I was doing. But that wasn't enough. Saving a life was not enough for me. I'm a go hard or go home person. This was 90 days after we had our surgery. We had a 90-day kidney bursary. And if you look at her face, you can see how different it looks. Her circles were gone. Her circles were gone under her eyes within a day of our surgery. My kidney. Well, that was the first time she got to have pizza, and I bought it. I insisted. I'm like, I will pick up the pizza. I'm bringing it over. And since the first day I agreed to do this, I said, I'm buying your first pizza. And you know what's weird? And this is how society has become. I had people saying, why are you buying her pizza? You just donated a kidney to her. And I thought, the kidney might have saved her life, but what raised her spirits? Pizza. One little pizza. She likes oregano's pizza with jalapenos, eggplant, and grilled onions. Now, this is my Brown family. I don't know how many of you know Kirti. I know you do. I know you do. Have you met Kirti?
I haven't met her.
Oh, okay.
Did she speak here last year?
Yes.
Yes. So that's my Brown family. We were actually featured on the Mayo Clinic newsletter that year. And this is my favorite picture of us because this is how we are. All we do is laugh. It's all we do is laugh. And it's funny because her brother in India is a psychic and said that we were related in a past life. You can believe that or not. Doesn't matter. So we had to come up with a name, Tiny Fab Kidney. We had fundraisers. She had some out-of-pocket costs for her surgery. So I've always been called fabulous. So it was just Tiny Fab Kidney. I still have the kidney. It's like a hunk of sugar that dries out. So then as I'm talking about it, I got a follower named Rebecca on Twitter after we were on the news one time. And she says, I want to donate my kidney. What do I do? So that's when I started mentoring people who are thinking about doing it because I didn't have that. I didn't have anybody to tell me what I was going to feel, what the tests were going to be like, the pressure. The physical stuff is easy for me. Physical pain goes away. It's up here that doesn't. And you have to work through it. So this is Rebecca. She donated about a year after I did. And we were there because of Twitter. That's how she found us, after seeing us on the news. So I got to sit in the hospital. I told her family what to expect. And that was the first, that summer, of 2 people that I mentored. And then I'm like, okay, now what do I do? How do I get the word out there even more? How do I preach? Because this is my church. Twitter is my church. Kidneys are my church, and comedy is my church. So I decided I'm going to drive cross country and interview other kidney donors who I met via social media. So this past May, we drove, I have a director, we drove 7,600 miles, hit 28 states in 20 days. We just went from city to city to city to city. And almost every time we were talking to strangers at cafes, because I got a camera on me and people were like, who are you? I'm like, I'm Amy Donahue, who are you? And they're like, well, what are you doing? And I said, I'm filming a documentary. I'm a kidney donor. And they said, well, you don't look like a kidney donor. And that's when I really started preaching about not judging a book by its cover. So our first stop was Vegas, and this is what kidney donors look like. The bathtub is genius. This is Kim in Vegas. That's a kidney donor. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Alonzo Bowden, but he is a famous comedian. He's in my movie. I have this tiny Golf. It's a 2-door. We tried for months to get a dealership to sponsor us for this trip because I'm like, camera equipment, luggage for 2 people for a month, because originally we were going to go all the way up the West Coast to Canada. But because of funding, we had to cut that part out of the trip. So I played Tetris card packing every single morning. And I fit everything into that tiny golf. The only room we had was our seats. We did it. We were sore every single night. You can see my yoga mat. I did yoga every single night after getting out of the car. This is Tori in Salt Lake City. This is Laura in Denver. Chris in Minneapolis. And Ricky in Detroit. Ricky's the reason for this film. 2 weeks before I donated my kidney, I see on Facebook, comedian donates kidney because of Facebook. I'm like, wait a second. It was Twitter. And then I found out it wasn't about me because I think everything is about me. And it turns out this kid, Ricky, in Detroit is a comedian, sees a Facebook post from a high school girl, space friend's husband being sick, and he donates. Well, I'm like, I'm going to find this guy. So I look on Facebook, I message him, I'm like, hi Ricky, I'm donating my kidney in 2 weeks, what do I do? How do you feel? And he's like, I feel great. He had just gotten out of the hospital 2 days before that. Ricky and I wrote back and forth for a couple of days and became friends on Facebook. But I had someone to ask. I had someone who had recently been through it. Because you can find kidney donors. But I needed someone who had the scars, who had the stitches, who still had blood on their clothes from this. And it's because of Ricky and being there for me that I decided to make this movie. This is John in Boston. This is Alyssa in New York City. That was a great interview because it was on a rooftop in Manhattan. And we were there the day the spire went up on the new World Trade Center tower. And this is Melissa in Jersey. She also lost her job. You can see in the back, that's the new World Trade Center. And this is Nancy in Maryland. Pam's a liver donor in Maryland. All of these people I met on social media. And then our last stop on the way was Kathy. She's in Arkansas. She lived on this little farm. This woman works at Donate Life in Tennessee and somehow found my website. I get a message. I'm like opening my email that day. Hi, I work at Donate Life in Tennessee. Would love to put you guys up. Because we had to raise money for food, for rooms. Every city, almost every city had somebody who paid for our rooms that night, which was great. I mean, everybody just wanted to help in whatever way possible. And she worked there. And this is Morgan from Seattle. And the girl on the right is Lauren from Canada. She's my Canadian kidney sister. She's the one that does everything that I do, but way up there. In a different way, because they say A. And this is a little over 2 years after our surgery. And every time I go over there, I take a pizza. Not usually Pizza Hut, because I'm not a chain person. We needed this for the filming. We needed something that could be delivered in Surprise, Arizona.
Oh.
In a specific time frame. So this was the day that we filmed there. But when I'm really sad, my phone rings. And his tiny mom. She can feel from 30 miles away my sadness. I had a cousin who killed herself right after the surgery. It was within a month. And when I got the call, I just collapsed. My family's extremely small. She called me. She said, what's wrong? And I didn't tell her because her recovery was tougher than mine. We didn't want to worry her. But I didn't tell her, but I was just like, I'm just really sad today. The kidneys talk. They're like twins separated at birth. I can't stop talking about kidneys. It's become my life because there's almost 120,000 people today, I did this last night, so yesterday, that are waiting for an organ transplant. And it's actually almost 98,000 people need a kidney. And 18 people die every single day waiting. That's why I won't stop talking about it, because I think that's ridiculous. So I started a corporation to mentor donors and to give us more long-term health care. We don't really get much after the 2 years. Canada does. There's a lot of things between the two countries that are alike, but there are a lot that are really different because they have, of course, universal health care. They have lifetime studies. We don't have lifetime studies here. And I just want to spread the word. I want people to be more aware of it because I didn't know anything until I saw that tweet. I didn't even think about it. I never knew anybody who did this. So what you can do to get more information, to find out when the documentary is coming out, we're still editing. It's called Social Media Stole My Kidney. You can check out the Facebook page, which is just Social Media Stole My Kidney, the website. And you can always tweet to me, the fabulous one, my neighbor. I didn't even know she was on Twitter, and all of a sudden I get a tweet. I'm like, who the heck is that? You've got a package on my patio, and I'm thinking, this is so weird stuff. But we're neighbors, and that's what Twitter did. And if you, I'm going to open it up to questions now, but if you just don't feel too comfortable asking in public, you can always message me either on the website or the Facebook page, or my email is fabulousamy@gmail. So, does anybody have any questions about the donation process? I don't, like I said, I'm not a doctor, so I can't give you too much information that could hurt somebody, but
Is there a network set up, like, I do a lot of fundraising lately for leukemia lymphoma. One of the things I did when I started bike riding and stuff for them is we get swabbed or in a national registry. Is there anything set up like that for organ donors?
I just got my bone marrow one in the mail yesterday, the same swab. There are several different places, the Donate Life network for donating kidneys, but a lot of cities, like it's UNOS, UNOS, it's a national, it could be international, is another organ donation site. If locally you want to start testing, all you do is contact the Mayo Clinic and say, I want to be a non-directed donor. Non-directed used to be called altruistic, meaning you don't know who your recipient is, and a lot of people do that. Lauren in Canada, I feel kind of bad because I have visitation with my kidney, but she doesn't even know where her kidney is. But she still did a great thing. So you would say you're a non-directed donor, unless you have somebody specific that wants to be, or that needs a kidney, then you would contact them. But Donate Life is probably the best one. Anybody else? No?
I was just wondering, why did she wait so long to put herself on it?
You have to be sick enough.
And for specific guidelines.
And you can actually be too sick. Her kidney function had finally gotten down to about 12%. She refused to go on the donor list for years, and finally for Kirti's birthday, she said, all I want is for you to go on the list. They're Hindu, they don't take. You know, that's their religion and their culture is to give. And taking something like an organ is kind of a big deal. Asking for it. I get people who are sick with kidney disease about once a week who message me and say, you know, I'm afraid to do this because it's asking so much. And I'm like, there are good people out there. And there are people who are willing to do that. We all have our reasons, and I just wanted to give back. So you have to be sick enough and not too sick. It's a very, very, very fine line.
That is so lame.
It is lame, but the problem is that if you're too sick, you might not survive the surgery. And then
Why
there's
do you
a
have to
kidney
wait so
floating
long?
around.
I mean, I know you're not a doctor, but that's, I mean, if you are sick and if it is beginning to fail, if you're too sick, I get that. But if you're not, you have to be so sick. I mean, that's just.
Without getting too political,
Yeah.
the people that go on dialysis are making a lot of money for dialysis
Well,
clinics.
it's just disgusting.
Well, that's how we are in this country right now, is everything is insurance run. And, oh God, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but unfortunately, there are organizations that want to keep people on dialysis because it's a money thing. Yeah,
All flows in accordance with the bottom line.
the bottom line. You're right. You're right. But again, I didn't have to pay for anything because her insurance covered it on both sides, including my testing and my surgery and everything. It was just about $1 million. That's a lot of money for the surgery. So it's more expensive than going to dialysis every week. Some people go 4 times a week for 5 hours a crack. So it becomes a job to be on dialysis. I have this thing, if you're on Twitter, you can join on Monday nights. called Kidney Chat, so it's just hashtag Kidney Chat. I started that in March because I wanted to create a community on Twitter, and people from all over the world. Like there's a girl from, I think it's Hungary, who tweeted, "Hey, I'm donating in 2 days." I was like, "You're from Hungary? How did you find it?" You know, I'm just a little thing in Phoenix, Arizona. But you can even just watch the hashtag on Monday nights. This week it starts at 8 Pacific, and we flip every other week with East Coast, 8 o'clock there, 8 o'clock Pacific, which is not us anymore. So it's very confusing for me. And you can always ask questions there or just see the people, because there are people that are on dialysis in Kidney Chat, and it breaks my heart every single time because they're just waiting for a kidney. But I can only give one. If I could grow another one and do it again, I would do it. If I could do it like every 3 years, because I don't want to go through all that surgery every year. But if I could do it every 3 years, I would definitely do it. Anybody else?
Have you had any side effects at all, or anything, limitations from having given yours?
There are a few things. For the first 90 days, I couldn't lift anything more than 10 pounds, but that's because they went through your abdominal wall, and you can get a hernia, and that happens with any surgery that goes through your abdominal wall. I started a year before the surgery, started having hot flashes, and I was perimenopausal at 39. And the surgery itself, I'm not sure if it had anything to do with the kidney, but there is an adrenal gland that sits on your kidney. Sometimes it gets nicked. It doesn't cause anybody problems, but I'm in menopause at 42. I'm fine with that. I'm having a hot flash right now, but that's all I have to deal with. I'm fine with it because I get to call Tiny Mom after this and tell her how this went. And that means the world to me. So yeah, if you have any further questions, feel free to. Okay.
Do you have a huge scar on your stomach now?
I do not. It's right here. And it's about this long, and I can assure you that people generally don't see it unless you point it out. But I do have friends, at parties. I went to a Halloween party, and one of my friends is like, "Can I see your scar?" And I thought, oh my God, I have to pull my pants down for this. But it's seriously less than if you have a C-section, and they did such a good job, and I took such good care of the scars afterwards. If you get a cake of cocoa butter, not cocoa butter lotion, but an actual cake of cocoa butter, and rub it on the scars a couple times a day, the scarring goes away really quickly. So it's not that bad. And it's down there.
Right.
And I'm 42, I'm not wearing a bikini. But I've seen the other scars, it's pretty nasty. So that's how much it's evolved, and now they take it out your belly button, which is already a scar. So I'm kind of mad about that, how come they couldn't discover that before I did it? But really not. Thank you guys so much for sticking around, and feel free to message me any way you want if you have any questions.
No, it's just three. You have been talking on Facebook for about 2.5 years.
What is your name?
Aaron Batchelor.
I was wondering, because you're speaking this weekend too, aren't you?
In about 10 minutes, yep.
You're, okay, I'll watch it. We have been.
Yeah.
And when I saw the list of speakers, I'm like, that's one of the people that I know because of social media.
Well, we missed each other last year.